Up next on the Mid-Life Mafia Podcast.
Today, I am extremely honored to introduce author Ed Rohs. This is a man with an incredible story. He has evolved his life into lessons which promote self-worth and motivation and empathy.
His loyalty is so important, and he explained because the reason why it's important is because you can have a person that's competent, but if they're not loyal to you, they'll take that competency and undermine your whole program. Absolutely. Or your services. Because you can always teach a person to be competent.
You can't teach them
but
to
you
be
can't
loyal.
teach loyalty. If you can do it, I can do it. I said, you're right. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
Welcome to the Mid-Life Mafia Podcast. My name is Christy. This episode, Why Not Find a Way?
Hi, my name is Marietta, and it's so nice to have you here, Ed.
Hi, I'm Elle, and I'm super excited about today's episode. The Mid-Life Mafia is an experience geared towards women over 40. It's going to make you feel powerful, enlightened, and confident about the woman you are and what the future has in store for you. We're three very different women putting the Gen X spin on midlife. We're taking on topics like women's health, relationships, self-esteem, career changes, and maybe some things that Mom forgot to tell you about. Midlife is a time of change. It's a time of reflection. Most importantly, though, it's a time of growth. It's a time when you can use your past experiences to help guide you into your future, because you have a lot of future left to go, and you've actually done things, made decisions, had outcomes that you can use to enlighten you and to illuminate the path that's up ahead. And today, I am extremely honored to introduce our guest. This is our second guest. You're our second guest, author Ed Rohs, amazing, published a book in 2011 called Raised by the Church. And then recently in 2024, like at the end of last year, Why Not Find a Way? This is a man with an incredible story. His first book was just unbelievable. It was one of those things that probably somebody told him, you've got to write a book about your life, when he started talking about your life, because he just had to write a book about his life. And then he went on with this new book to tell how his life progressed, and he used these life lessons to keep himself going and propelling himself forward and keeping his head up and going through adversity. And it's an amazing read. It's so heartwarming, and it's so, what's the word? Inspirational.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the word. It's so inspirational. I have to tell you, I enjoyed reading your book very much. And I want to tell you my favorite line from the book, Ed. So this is my favorite line from this book too. You can find success in the simplest things in your life, that the people you meet and the interactions you have with them, the special moments embedded in your life coupled with a positive mindset, will help you achieve your most difficult or coveted goal. This is despite the genes you've inherited or the environment into which you have been placed. And I think that is so true, that it comes from you. It comes from you and your outlook. And I think to even talk about the second book, we have to kind of go back to the history of the first book, which is a very compelling and interesting story.
That's the reason why the last chapter was developed based on that assessment you made. Because they said, let me give people by example. Everybody in the last chapter are faces of success. And their success is in all walks of life. Blue collar, professional, law enforcement, mental health, athletics, construction, you name it. That I wanted to follow that to show you. You don't just need a college degree. In that book, you'll find people made it very successful.
Yeah.
The Keens, 12 children, and that the mother was a nurse and the father was a construction worker, and together they found a way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And so let's talk about your beginnings were very surreal. Like they were like a movie. You want to share a little bit of your history?
It's funny you say like a movie. The first book, when I went on YouTube, the producer said, your book should be a movie.
Totally.
In
Absolutely.
fact, The Sopranos, James
Gandolfini.
Okay, he should play you, and he's my pro.
That's going to be a little hard now.
My co-producer. And to be honest with you, if he says yes, it's a go. I said, why? Because he looks like you act like you, and you picked yourself up by the bootstraps.
Right.
And you accomplished it. and you had obstacles, and you always found a way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually started not too far from our studio right here on 13th Avenue.
Well, that's what's amazing about it. I thought about on the way you drove me here today. I said, I cannot believe it. I'm walking on 13th Avenue. I said, wait a minute. The first place I was dropped off at was Angel Guardian Home, which is a few blocks away from your studio.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable that we're meeting here. I'm in denial. I'm in denial. I'm 20 years old. Okay?
With lots of experience.
We're all 20 years old.
No, you
Dad.
need one of the things that I want to do with this podcast though is I want to take the stigma away from how old you are.
Okay.
You are, you know what I mean? You are as old as you are, and you are a sum of all of your experiences, and your experiences, you personally have been heartwarming, vast, encouraging. You have motivated so many people. You have encouraged so many people, and your very beginnings were being dropped off at an orphanage down the block, literally from here.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yep. And then you went on. You stayed. Your first book is all about growing up in various orphanages, like in institutions.
Being bounced from place to place to place, and I don't mean that in a negative way. But in those days, you were transferred based on your grade and your age. Now they found that's very destructive.
Yeah.
Now they try to keep kids together, more stability in one place.
Because that's your family now.
Yeah. And what happened, a good example of that was when I had the nuns, I had the Sisters of Mercy for the first 12 years, up to the 8th grade, up to the 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
When the bus dropped me off from St. Mary's in Syosset, Long Island, to St. John's Home in Rockaway, Queens, the nuns said they were shocked. The 25 of us ran to the bus. They were crying. Not one of us stopped to say goodbye. we were so used to being bounced around that we didn't build any what I call long-term relationships because of rejection.
Of course.
That's the reason why. So it's funny, we bounced place to place. And I said, what? Now, one of you said we raised you for 12 years. That one of you turned around and said, thank you, sisters. You just ran off the bus and that was it.
Yeah, that was one of the things that in your book, that's one of the things you talk about is that you have that feeling of being displaced, and you always had that feeling because there was never an option for anybody else to adopt you, because when you were dropped off, they said, we're going to come back and get you, your mom.
And it was so difficult to build relationships because being bounced to bounce, that was rejection again. You had to start over again. Yeah. So you learned to just be nice, be respectful, but don't build any long-term relationships because you can be moving. You'll be packing your bags and moving. So you stop building relationships.
Stop getting comfortable.
Yeah, you're basically protecting yourself. You're building a little wall around yourself. And I know from reading your book that you kept all of this inside. First of all, I don't know where you have the memory to write these books. I don't remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday. And you're talking about stuff that happened in years ago. 15
years old. I didn't want to leave St. John's Home in Rockaway to go to St. Vincent's Home in downtown Brooklyn, because St. John's Home was on the water, the beach was safe community. St. Vincent's Home was downtown Brooklyn, by the criminal court, by the Supreme Court.
Which used to be that bad down there.
Gangs hung out, you said?
Gangs, all that kind of hung out. And so big kids coming back and tell us, wait till you get down there and they mug you, they do. I said, what? I'm not going. So I improvised. I said, I got to find a way to stay behind. So my 8th grade, and I didn't realize I was always in the classes for the gifted, the advanced students. But then I said, I got to start filling my subjects. So my 8th grade in the fall, I started intentionally filling my subjects. And then the principal would call me, Brother August would call me and say, Ed Rohs, there's something going on. Why? You're in the advanced classes all these years, and now you're failing all your subjects, you're not doing well. And I would just say, I don't know. But I did know. But I don't know. Then he goes back in March, calls me in, and says, Ed Rohs, I have to leave you back. I went, I have to leave you back. I'm sorry. I said, I'm sorry. I walked out.
That was your intention.
Right. Did it.
But now, in retrospect, I regret doing that. Because what happened was, when I stayed back for the year, I was the oldest one there. They put me in slow classes.
You were bored.
Oh God.
There was no more challenges.
It seemed like a good idea at the time, though.
It was at the time because I was afraid.
Yeah.
But then the one more year gave me a little more maturity. And so, as a result of that, when I picked my high school, remember up to the 8th grade was always 100 kids in the school. I picked a high school in Brooklyn called John Jay High School in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
4,000 students. And I only picked it for one reason, not academics. It was co-ed.
Right. Yeah. So when you wrote this book, so you wrote your first book about growing up and everything. This book to me represents your 10 beliefs for success.
Yes.
And that's why when he's talking about the end of the book, before he's referring to at the last part of the book, he actually does like case studies of people who have succeeded and overcome odds and been examples of goodness and kindness and empathy and stuff like that, stuff that everyone wants to aspire to be, or stuff that everyone should want to aspire to. But I love your 10 beliefs for success. I think it should be on a poster, and I think I'm going to put it in my house.
Thank you.
Always go after your dreams or goals. Always believe in yourself, even if you're the only one who does. Always accept that obstacles and setbacks are inevitable. Your pursuit of goals and dreams, just find a way. Always remember that determination and passion are key components for success. Always surround yourself with people from whom you can learn. Always try to be assertive and perform beyond what people expect or require of you, unless you're trying to get held back in school. Always aim high and keep raising the bar for yourself. Always take responsibility for things under your control. Always remember that loyalty is as important as competency, and always go with your instincts and gut feelings when you're not sure what to do.
I'm glad. The one about loyalty, the reason why I emphasized that one was when I was going to graduate school, social work administration at Fordham. I had a professor, Miguel Martinez. In fact, he was the vice president of the Board of Education in New York City. He was the first Hispanic person, and he was an adjunct at Fordham. And he says, loyalty is more important. And of course, being rebellious, I put my hand up. Why is loyalty so important? And he explained, because the reason why it's important is because you can have a person that's competent, but if they're not loyal to you, they'll take that competency and undermine your whole program, all your services. Because you can always teach a person to be competent and teach them the way you wanted the job done,
You can't teach them
but
to
you
be
can't teach
loyal.
loyalty.
And it's funny, that must have been something for you, because loyalty goes, when moving around so much as a child, it's hard to be loyal, because that's something you really had to teach yourself.
In addition to that, there is one of the positive sides of being bounced around. You become perceptive in people, because when I worked at St. Vincent's Home in my adult life, I asked the president and the executive director of St. Vincent's Home would always come up to me and ask me for my input about a particular person. And finally I said to him, Father, why are you always asking me about? Well, to be honest with you, Ed, being raised and bounced around in your childhood from place to place to place, you've had so many rejections and so many different interactions, you were never able to build a long-term stability relationship. So you become very perceptive in people that had to adapt and deal with people. So the average person doesn't have that same perception as a person that being raised in your kind of environment.
It's a survival skill at that
Survival
point.
skill,
Yeah. So when did you come up with these 10 benefits for success?
When he first decided when he first finally settled down and started getting, because in the beginning of my career I was bouncing from place to place to place to find myself and to find out what I wanted to do, because I wasn't sure. I thought I wanted law enforcement. I always wanted law enforcement.
Yeah.
But I found out I had really bad eyes, poor vision. And so I says, again, you find a way. I said, you know what? I want to get law enforcement. So I took the police exam for the police administrative aid. And once I learned that was the closest thing to become a police officer. And they explained, when you work in a precinct, there's going to be a lot of mistrust. Why is that? Well, to be honest with you, you're the first civilian class in this police department. So you expect a lot of mistrust. So sure enough, I would go through the training, and after the training they make the assignments. And most of the administrative aides got assignments They wrote a police chart, 8 to 4, 4 to 12, 12 to 8 shifts. Ed Rohs, you're on 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, at the 76th Detective Squad in Red Hook. Who's your rabbi?
Right.
I never heard that expression in my life. So everybody's go, who's your rabbi? I says, I'm sorry, Sarge. What does that mean? He goes, well, everybody else here goes on the chart. You're the only one going to a detective squad to be an assistant.
Right, with normal hours on a normal work environment.
To the commanding officer. And so it was an education on sometimes who.
And you found out later who it was. You did find out.
The way I found out later on was that a year later, 2 years later, I'm working in the squad, and we had 25 detectives, a few first-grade detectives, second-grade detectives, third-grade detectives, and they decided to move the Carter squad into next door. This Lieutenant Fitzsimmons comes in, and I knew when I was at St. John's Home, he used to volunteer and take care of us. That's like 8 years, 9 years, 10 years earlier.
Right.
And I went, he goes, how do you think you got here?
That's your rabbi.
I says, you're the rabbi? He says, yes. He goes, when they were making the assignments, I went into the office, I saw the list of the first class, and I recognized your name from St. John's Home. He says, put him in the 76th squad. And then he says, thank you, Pat. He goes, shh. It's no longer Pat. His name was Pat Fitzsimmons. It's no longer Pat Fitzsimmons. In the police structure, it's a paramilitary structure. It's Lieutenant Fitzsimmons. I said, okay, Lieutenant. Lieutenant Fitzsimmons.
Right.
Okay.
So where did you move from there?
Then what happened was, I found out the district attorney's office had their own squad. If you ever watch Blue Bloods,
I love Blue Bloods.
I watch Blue Bloods every Wednesday. Okay? You watch Blue
Love
Bloods.
Donnie Wahlberg.
I was that David, the detective investigator for the ADA.
Okay.
Okay, and I went. I did what I had to do. Again, I already had to become politically astute.
You had to stuff envelopes and go door to door for a while to get that gig.
To get that gig, it was a political appointment. And that's the first thing I learned about politics. And I learned a long time ago that everybody hates politics until they need something.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. And I became a detective investigator. And that's very interesting because that's the first time I met my family for the first time. While I was a detective investigator, I made an arrest. I made a burglary arrest. It hit the daily newspapers. And when it hit the newspapers, I get a call to the DA's office. Now I'm being transferred from the Criminal Court Bureau to the Supreme Court Bureau, and I get a phone call. It says, Detective Investigator Rohs, please don't hang up. Please don't hang up. It took me forever to get to you. I may be your uncle. I see in the newspaper, the same Edward Rohs, the same name as my brother, same features. I want to meet you. I actually panicked.
Oh, I can imagine.
I just, give me a number, I have to call you back. No, I have to call you back, I'm sorry. I hung up. I said to the Assistant DA, Al Koch, I said, Mr. Koch, I had to go see a social worker that's right up Monica, downtown Brooklyn Heights. I had to see the social worker that works up the block. I got this, it might be a crank, a crank store, but I said, I have to find it, it's valid. I ran out of the block. She was good. She goes, well, you're going back to when you were 13 now. But you did have a side of the family that economically they were more established than your parents. So it may be true. So here's what you do: you pick the neutral place to meet, and you pay the bill. You got to show them that you're independent. They're not dependent on anybody. So I called them back. I says, "Where do you live?" I live in the Woodhaven Boulevard by the Queens Shopping Center.
Okay.
I said, okay, there's a Howard Johnson's. I said, okay, there's a Howard Johnson's there. I'll meet you in the Howard Johnson's. So I dressed up in the suit, shirt and tie. They're all dressed up. I go to the Howard Johnson's. I walk into the vestibule. He comes up to me, he starts crying. And I start going. Because there was no emotions, there was no feelings whatsoever. But it took me a long time, but then that was my first time
You had been suppressing all of that for so long. It would had to be impossible to even.
Yeah.
I don't even.
Yeah, it took a long time to develop a relationship. And then he wanted me to meet his son,
Which would have been your cousin.
Yes, my cousin, who also went to Fordham. I didn't know, but way back, and he was a brain. Went to school for the kids. He graduated high school at 15 years old. In college at 18. So it must be in genetics.
Yeah, exactly.
But it took me a long time. But I said, you have to go at my pace. Because it took me a long time to trust anybody.
Of course.
And so it took about a year to trust anybody. And then of course, they became a great family for me. And then later on, Melissa, my goddaughter, her father and I were raised in St. Vincent's home together.
Uh-huh.
So when we left together, he got married. I became the godfather for his 2 children in Staten Island. And when I was coming today, I stopped by Hillman Avenue. And I was shocked to see how it's changed. But I had a lot of fond memories of when I was so bad at learning how to shop. I didn't know how to shop. I couldn't shop, cook, or nothing. I left. I'm jumping ahead, but I jumped years later, not prepared to be in the outside world.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a medical problem, you can find a way.
I know you spend a lot of time. You got your master's degree in social work.
Administration.
Yeah, social worker. Yeah, because you could do more good being an administrator than an actual social worker.
Yeah, because what happened, I learned in social work school that if you go, I think because I was a psychotherapist for 5 years, but I learned when you're a psychotherapist, you're only helping that client, that caseload. But if you major in social work administration, you can help hundreds of kids or hundreds of families, because administration is where policies are made and followed through. So I learned in administration you can help a lot more people in administration.
Absolutely.
And that's why I started doing contracts. But if you look at my book, my first book, you'll see all the careers I had. I only saw contracts and monies and this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's...
You had a lot of jobs.
Yes.
It was hard to keep track of the order of all your jobs, but one thing that you did do was you always found a way to go back and coach, because you're a big sports fan. You always found a way to go back and coach kids, who were in whatever situations.
You're right. I coached Pop Warner football, not little kids, but intermediate, which is high school kids. Mm-hmm. I did that for years, and then I was a strength coach at Fordham University for 17 years. And that's when the kids were shocked when they read my first book. They were stunned. And the coach was shocked because Coach Tom Pender said, and he went from Fordham to Rhode Island to George Washington, and even Texas big time, He goes, Ed, you should have told the story. Kids would have worked harder for you. But I never wanted sympathy.
Right.
Of people feeling sorry for me or pity. He goes, no, to the contrary, they would have worked harder. And that's why even these kids this summer, when they don't know a little bit about it. They know a little bit about it, and they go, if you can do it, I can do it. I says, you're right. If I can do it, anybody can do it. That's why the book is important, because there's no excuses.
Right. That's what I got out of it. And that's why it was such a pleasure for me to read it, because it's the easiest thing in the world to come up with excuses, and it's the hardest thing in the world to talk yourself up. And you managed to do that in,
Well, even recently, when it came with the title for the second book, Why Not Find a Way? The first part of the title, Why Not? I got it from my new pastor at the Basilica St. Paul in Daytona Beach. He was a transfer. He worked in the private sector in the early part of his career in the federal government in IT, a brain and a half. And then he became a priest. And while he was a priest, he also coached in Maryland, basketball 81. And what happened to a previous priest, and I won the county basketball game with girls. I won the county girls in Daytona Beach. But I didn't win the diocese championship. So the next day in church, I'm standing in the first row and my head is down. I'm depressed because I hate losing. I don't like losing. And the priest comes up the aisle and hits me. No one else knows this, of course. He hits me in the back and goes, "You can't win them all." And then his father, Ken Gill, Lugay's a great guy, says, "Why not?" I says, "I like that. Why not?"
I like that too.
We all like it.
Yeah. So he gets the credit. Father Ken Gill, the Basilica of St. Paul.
And you never say, why me?
Yes.
I've never heard you once say, why me? Like, why was it you? It wasn't, it just...
Yeah.
So I commend you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So at the age of 7 and 12, you were sexually abused by two different...
No, one religious brother.
One religious brother,
One
okay.
person, yes.
How were you able to keep the faith in the Catholic Church?
In fact, honestly, that's what kept me. The church has helped me get through this because I didn't go for therapy. I should have went for therapy, and that's why I never got married. I realize now that was a stumbling block for me to develop relations because I dated. My first job, there was a girl I was in love with. We went out 6 8 months. I thought she was it.
Mm.
She broke up with me. I was devastated. Devastated. I said, never again. I'm not going through this. It's too heartbreaking. And for years, I thought that she'd moved to California. I said, I'm not going through this again. I tried a couple more times, and I found out it's me. It never worked out. And I realize now, and I should have known better being a therapist and being a social worker, that I should have went for therapy. I should have went for help.
Yeah.
But in those days, it was considered macho. And it was wrong. I realize now it was wrong. If you need help, go get the help if you need help.
100%.
Absolutely.
And so, and that happened for a long time. And I didn't know who to go to because the other brothers all wore black suits too. So who do you run to? So I didn't know who to run to. Now you have toll-free numbers. Now you have all kinds of people could call up and report it.
Right.
They didn't have it in those days. You had to suffer. You had to suffer through it and live through it. Because I blamed myself. And then one day someone said, "You're the victim." He bowled you. He won you over, pulled you in, and did what he had to do for months. Until one day, we had 38 kids in one dormitory, one room, and he still came in and did whatever he did. Until one day he said, I just screamed. I got the guts to scream and say, "Stop!" And then he never came back again. But the damage was already done.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I see you, as someone who hasn't quite grown up yet.
Well, that's why it's funny you say that. When they say, how old are you? I say, they guess the age 62. I says, you're close. And even the pastor, Father Gill, says, I said, Father, the kids think I'm 62, even I do middle school. Ed, it's my secret. I won't tell them that you're over 62.
Except if they read your book and your birthday's like on the first page.
Well, they did that. They did that. Even now in Allentown. Ed, 1946. Yeah.
But that's what I want to do with this podcast. I want it to show, and you're the perfect shining example of how your chronological age is not who you are. You are who you are, and and even to be so humble to say, after all you've been through right now, to just hear you say, you know what, I should have done it a different way. What I should have done was, I shouldn't have kept it inside. I should have gotten help. And if I would suggest to you today, I would tell you to not do what I did. You are still learning. You are still discovering yourself.
Well, it's funny you said it because at Fordham University, when I graduated from the School of Social Work, eventually I made it to the president of the board, and had to walk around with all these people all the time. And I was even with the Bishop of Brooklyn, sit with him. I don't want to sit with him. Ed, you have to sit with him. You're the president of the board. You have to sit with him. The deans tell me you have to sit with him. We had such a good time. The Bishop of Brooklyn, Nicholas DeMaggio, goes in his pocket, pulls out a wallet and says, here's my business card. And if you ever need anything, give me a call. I didn't even know bishops have business cards. And then what happened was when he decided to step down, the most unassuming leader I ever met in my life.
Yep.
Boy, and you were the president of a very respectable alumni association in the country with 1,500 members. I said, well, no, big thing. That's why you're humble. And when you stepped down, they were fighting like vultures to all become president.
Wow.
And one thing I'd like to add that I read in your book about that time is that there weren't that many people in the association, and you decided to reach out to people of color and other people who weren't typically asked to be in the association and get them involved.
I built the board from 8 members to 18 members, and it was a mixture of everything. And I asked the basic question to all of them, why didn't you join the board sooner? And every one of them said, no one reached out to me. No one asked me. Well, it's like just asking someone.
I have chills from that. No, but
Well, even now in Daytona, in Allentown, I have a kid in the waiting this summer that's a little nerd, but he needs help. He's this posture and structure. He's doing in the weight room. The thing I showed you, I asked that kid, I said, I want you to do me a favor. This year, you're going to be his mentor. You're going to show him what to do and build his confidence, make sure his posture stays in the face so he builds his self-esteem.
That's
So
nice.
it's a project that we're going to work on when I get back next year. I want to see a difference.
and that's part of helping someone is empowering them to help someone else.
Of course.
And that's what you've been doing this whole time. I mean, your whole story is. I'm looking for. Who do you want to play you in the movie now that James Gandolfini isn't an option?
Not an option.
I definitely want a part. Can I be Sister? What is it, Sister Johanna?
Yeah, you of all people.
I want to be Sister Johanna.
She was tough.
Oh, I could definitely be her.
But you can't be a nun.
Well,
So I want to ask you. Let's talk about some of the people at the end of your book. How did you choose which inspiring people to put in the end of your book? How many are there? I didn't count.
Oh, there was a bunch.
About 20 or 30 of them.
Yeah.
Every one of them I met from all walks of life, and every one of them I had a relationship with. And every one of them, it was amazing. They found a way to do what they were doing. For example, Father O'Hare, the former president of the late Father O'Hare, the former president of Fordham University, was raised in the Bronx, the North Bronx, as a blue collar. His mother was a teacher, a Jesuit, all educated, and become the editor of the American magazine, the Jesuit magazine, and even when he was appointed. You'll love this story. When he was appointed as the chairman of the financial aid board in New York City, when they would fund your campaign if you want to run for mayor. He was the chairperson of that. Mayor Koch, Edward Koch, made him the chairperson of that board. Mm-hmm. And they had to review all the campaign contributions to people running for the board. And Rudolph Giuliani was running it that year. Okay, and he had to fine Giuliani because there was some inappropriate funding.
Right.
The person with his funding.
Right.
And he fined him. And then what happened was, when Giuliani won, they were going to transfer, because right now it was in Lower Manhattan, across the street from City Hall. As the president of Fordham University, the main campus is the Bronx. Giuliani decided to try to push the campaign office from Manhattan to Adams Street, downtown Brooklyn. I said, Father O'Hare, why are they transferring your office from Manhattan to Brooklyn when you made it in the Bronx? He said, Ed, whoever said that politics is not a contact sport?
Yeah.
And that was it.
That's great.
Just like commuting.
Everything else in New York.
Yeah. Tell us some more inspirational stories in your book.
Okay. The next person is Lorraine Brown. She's the senior vice president for East New York, for the healthcare system in the East New York, Brownsville, that section. I worked with her when she worked at New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation, where I worked, and she was my boss. A black woman, professional, articulate. I knew she was going to make it because she graduated from the University of Pennsylvania, cum laude. She's so bright, so sharp. I said one day she's going to make it. Sure enough, she paid her dues. And she's a workaholic. Just like you're working, just like you're spending all this time. The exact same thing. Look at your working day. You're working full day. You come here, you work. Exact same thing. I knew. She goes, what? I said, Lorraine, I knew you were going to make it. Why? You're a workaholic, and you're bright, you're sharp, you're articulate. You know how to push over. You know what I mean? And you're a role model.
absolutely.
Yeah. The other person was another person was the construction. He actually had the ability to go to Division I basketball, a white kid from Broad Channel. But he decided to go into construction. I said, why? You're going to give the scholarship, Division I scholarship. You had offers and everything. I want to help my family. My mother and father had 12 children.
Wow.
They need help. It's my turn to help out now. Another family was the Tortures from Staten Island. That was the first time the two sons, one is an electrician, superintendent in the electrical union in New Jersey. The other one is the New York City Sanitation Department. And he's a shop steward, leadership roles.
Okay.
And I said, those are two blue collar people that are doing well. That shows you college is not for everybody.
Right.
Yeah, it's not.
No.
It does not mean you can't be successful.
Exactly.
And that's what I wanted to show that from every walks of life.
Yeah. That's really
If you want it, you can get it.
yeah.
Yes.
That's really that's very inspiring, and it really. Is there anyone you've ever met who doesn't like you?
It's funny you say that. You ready? It's funny you say that. When I, like I mentioned, Milliford, I ran for the board. When I first moved, I didn't know anybody because I was institutionalized, but I ran for the board. The first year I ran, I only got, in a 700 family, I only got 60 votes.
Oh.
The second year I ran, I got 120 votes.
Double.
The third year I ran, I got 450 votes out of 600 people that voted. So I felt like I won, and I found out that the reason why I had difficulty was the board president didn't want me on the board. I didn't understand politics.
Right. Who does?
I didn't. I'm telling you. I said, what? He didn't want me. And in fact, what happened was, you'll like this. What happened was that when I got on the board, he started harassing me. And we met once a month. We met as a board. And during the lunch break, we'd be sitting in the lounge having he'd come up and rub against me. And I don't care who you tell, but you know I didn't want you on this board, and I don't care the swim team. I said, it's okay. He did it 3 months in a row. And there's a funny side of Edward Rohs that I never show. The third month he did it, I says, this has to stop. I said, Tony, let's go in the office, manager's office. We go in the office, I slam the door shut. All the board members are outside, I go, and I said, listen, Tony, it's got to stop. I go up to his eye contact, and I said, Tony, that's from today on, it stops.
He just stopped just like that?
He was shocked, he was stunned. I said, you can't intimidate me. I know you're big and strong, you got muscles and all this kind of stuff. And I know I don't, with my glasses, I don't look like the, but don't Tony, let's not go there, Tony. Don't go by looks. But it has to stop. We have to be professional down there.
Absolutely.
And from that day on, he was beautiful.
See, sometimes you have to open your mouth, though, you know?
The other story was that we had a rule about T-shirts. No wearing T-shirts in the pool.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking to a community member by the pool, and this gentleman comes out of the pool and says, what are you, blind? Didn't you see that guy with the shirt in the pool? I said, excuse me, I'm talking. He sits down, and the gentleman goes, what's that about? I said, when you're a board member, you have to listen to the community. They have a right to talk, but they can just come like that and be abusive like that. I said, well, sometimes you got to take it sometimes. You have to listen. I turned around, and he's still going. I said, excuse me. I go up to the chair, I go lean down. I says, Pete, this is going to stop right now. Do you understand? This is going to stop right now. I know as a board member we have to listen to you, community concerns, but you don't have to disrespect me. From today on, you're going to show respect. Do you understand me? It just stopped. It just stopped like that.
So inspiring that you were able to figure that out in your lifetime, and like I said, you're still it's like you're still learning, you're still figuring it out, you're still going for it, and you're helping so many people along the way. And I can't thank you enough for writing this book and writing your first book, because books about hope are great, but books about hope that really works, that and like 10 things you can actually read and say, I can do these things, it makes a big difference to people to be able to be set on a path that they can follow.
Thank you.
So I do appreciate it. Marietta, don't you have some secret question?
I do. So, what do I hear that you are in love with mince pie?
What happened was, when you're raised in institutions, you're always taught that when you visit families, you keep your mouth shut. Because remember, I had no parents, so if I got invited to someone's house, they weren't family. Mm-hmm. So when you go to someone's house, you always keep your mouth shut. Whatever food they serve, you say thank you, you enjoy it. So Aunt Catherine, that was the volunteer that took me home for 19 years.
That was Sister Johanna's.
Sister Johanna McLaughlin's biological sister. Decided, what happened was, the way she fell in love with me was that when I was in Covenant of Mercy up to 4 years of age, Sister Johanna was supervisor of the playground. And while she's supervising us, her sister come visit her because the nuns weren't allowed out of the convent in those days. And while she's visiting, I ran up to her and says, "Who are you?" I pulled the skirt and says, "Who are you?" I'm Mrs. Catherine, and I'm Sister Johanna's sister. But you don't have no habit on. You're not a sister. So I didn't know what she meant by biological sister. For 4 years, I had no clue what it meant. So from that time on, she fell in love. So every Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter, when most kids had no place to go, she picked me up, and I always had a place to go on the holidays. And every Thanksgiving, she served pumpkin pie and mince pie, and I couldn't stand it. But I was taught that you don't say nothing. So for 20 years, 30 years, I ate that mince pie. That's it. The mince pie. Every Thanksgiving, it was terrible. And then what happened was, one Thanksgiving, the supermarket ran out of mince pie. She comes and goes, "I'm very sorry, I have no mince pie." And I slipped. Oh, thank God, I'm glad. I can't stand mince pie. And she was flabbergasted, Sister Johanna going, and they're shocked. They're going, "But you've been sitting here for 20 years eating mince pie." I know, but I was taught as a kid, you keep your mouth shut and you just eat it. But I slipped.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
That was great.
Well, it is such a pleasure and an honor to have you here. I have to say, you're inspiring in person. Your book is fantastically inspiring. I suggest that you go and get both books, the first book and the second book, because you can read them. It's like the life story, and this book is self-published, so it's not easy to find. You can't just go somewhere and buy this book.
Can't get it next day.
Yeah, I called every bookstore, and they were like, "It'll take me 4 days to get it." So,
Tuesday it's coming.
yeah. So I know you're working on that, though, right, Ed? You've got some irons in the fire. You're going to get this book out there.
Well, I told him. I told the new person, our new liaison from the publishing company. I says, "Isaac, I'm getting complaints that this book, but now it's getting better." Like,
yeah, it takes a minute.
For example, Lake Adventure had a book signing day on July 4th. She ordered the week before. She got 50 books. She got it just like that. So it's all timing.
You know what? There's a bookstore here in Bay Ridge. That's the one that I called. And they're actually, bookstores are in a lot of trouble. They're fighting to stay alive from the internet. So you should have a book signing there.
I think it's the bookshop.
Yeah, the bookshop, because
book signing here.
You're from right here. You're from 13th Avenue. You should have a book signing at the old bookshop or whatever.
I know it.
We'll talk to the lady, see if she's interested when you get back from Florida. Aren't you a snowbird these days? You're going to Florida.
Yes.
No problem.
We could do a nice book signing over here, Ed.
Well, guess what was very successful in that story in the book? How many people have heard of 1-800-Flowers.com?
Me.
I read this.
That gentleman worked in St. John's Home where he was raised. And for 14 years he worked as a counselor. But then he went to Manhattan and worked in a florist to make extra money. And he started working at a florist, then bought one shop, 2 shops, 3 shops. I says, "James, that's a success story." He goes, "Ed, I know you since you were 19. I knew you when you came back here to visit all the time to see Dr. Scallon, the psychologist, to visit him."
Wow.
And look how successful. So all those stories, people should read that. You're right.
Yeah.
They have to read those stories and find out.
Right.
Anybody can do it.
Right. And you're a shining example, and I love your zest for life and your still love of everything, despite everything that you've been through and the way that you came into the world and just everything that happened. You are a beacon of positivity and hope, and it's inspiring just to know you, just to see your socks.
Thank you.
Too.
Just a correction.
We love the
Yeah.
socks, and I heard somebody buys them for you every holiday.
Melissa, my goddaughter, who your sister, right?
Yes,
was
she used to
was
work.
a boss. Used
Yes.
to work for. Was a boss.
She was a very good teacher.
Yes.
She taught both my boys, Melissa.
Wow, that's so important.
What's the bookstore's name?
The Bookmark Shop.
The Bookmark Shop.
It's
Yeah.
on 84th and 3rd
Yeah.
Avenue in
Let's
Bay
give a
Ridge.
shout
Nicest
out to
person.
Zach.
I actually spoke to the woman who worked there, and she was like the nicest person in the world.
I'll come back.
Yeah.
I'll come back.
We'd love to have you anytime. And so you can order the book online.
We'll have the link on our website.
Yeah, you can also, if you call any bookstore, they can order it for you also. So you can pick it up at your favorite bookstore, and it's a good way to keep bookstores in business because
But you have to read the first book.
Yeah.
Because everything coincides together.
but each book, right? I agree. Get both books and read both books, and you'll be happy that you did. So thank you so much
Thank you very
for
much.
coming on our podcast.
Can I ask?
appreciate
I'm
it.
sorry. Can I ask Ed to do one more thing, please?
Of course.
Sure.
Can you please, Uncle Ed, give a shout out to somebody back in Florida?
Where is Zachary? My godson Zachary, Melissa, where is Zachary? A shout out to Zachary. There's a young man, just he's grown tremendously, academically and otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
He actually wants to go into acting. He's not stage fright. He goes on the stage. He's unbelievable. At his age, I could never go on a stage.
Mm-hmm.
He does a lot of theater performances.
He found his gift.
Yeah.
He found his gift, and he's very intelligent, very smart. And I'm actually proud of him. I'm really proud of Zachary. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right, don't boost
That's
him
my
that much. Hi, Zach.
Sometimes you just got to keep looking to find your gift.
Yes.
So keep looking. That's pretty much the theme of your book. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
And you can catch us on all the socials. Tune in to the Mid-Life Mafia Podcast.
Welcome to the family.